ultimately, ultimately, what we need to be aiming at is to have practice be the same as daily life. To have, wake up in the morning, you know, what you were sharing about that is important. To wake up in the morning and before you get up, start noticing that your brain is already working, that the voice in your head is already introducing you to this day's challenge and talking about what you aren't, what you're looking forward to, what you're not looking forward to, like that. And for most people, that condition that begins early in the morning, as soon as you come back from the dream state, from the sleep state, for most people, that condition produces a state of dread, right? A state of dread, right? Like I'd rather not, you know, get up at all, right? Well, so that's an opportunity if you're paying attention in the right way, it's an opportunity for you not to let that condition get created. It's an opportunity for you to see it for what it is, to see it as it's just your survival mechanism, it's just your conditioning from the past starting to play, to run again this day, the way it did the last day, and the last week, and the last year, right? And so if you see it for what it is, you can watch it, but you're not identified with it. You can watch it and you can see that it's a lost soul. It is who you really are, but it doesn't know that. It now thinks it's a separate self that lives in this body, right? And so it's speaking from that point of view. And so you can listen to it and you can watch it with compassion. This is an innocent child. This is a disturbed mental case, right? And you can listen to it that way, you know, and listen to it for compassion and, you know, forgive them for they know not what they think. You can listen to it that way. And then when you're done listening to it that way, you turn toward the day like an opportunity to practice. You turn toward the day now, not with the dread, but with an inspiration and a motivation to pay attention to everything that's happening this day, with the intention of having every experience that you encounter in the day be an opportunity to realize the truth versus continue to practice the lie. So that's the ultimate thing, is to practice all the time. Well, but that's an unrealistic thing to expect for most people, because most people are still so involved and committed to and believing in this process that goes on in the mind. And that's understandable, because you live in a world where there's 8+ billion people who are doing that, right? So you just fall into step. You fall into step, you know, when you leave this room and you get in your car and you get on the highway, you know, I don't care what insight you have here, you'll fall into the step of the traffic and start being pissed off at the person in front of you that's going too slow. The machine will continue to do what it does. It doesn't care about how awake or asleep you are. It'll just continue to do what it does. That's what it does. So the whole business of practice is that, you know, and then the other thing is that, you know, so first of all, any practice is better than no practice. And any practice that is based on an understanding of what you're doing is better than a practice that doesn't have an understanding. That's why to just start to practice meditation without any understanding about what it is, how it works, what you're doing, is very unlikely to produce anything. Very unlikely. It may allow you to experience being more relaxed and more calm, you know, but that's about it. It's not gonna give you insight into your true nature. It's not gonna give you access to the possibility that we talk about here in this class. There's a lot of ways of practicing, many of which are different from one teaching and one teacher to another. And it doesn't make either one better than the other, they're just different. And that's why some people would gravitate towards Thich Nhat Hanh, and other people might gravitate towards Rinzai Zen. and feel more comfortable in that particular thing. It's like my teacher, David Radin, he had a major contention with his teacher, who was a famous Zen master. And the contention, and he told his teacher that, he said, I don't care for the formality. I don't care for the costumes. I don't care for everything's got to be exactly the way it's done in a lot of the Zen practices. And that's why what he calls his Zen center in his practice, sloppy Zen. And his teacher responded to that by saying, I don't disagree with you about that. And you're probably very right about that when it comes to the transmission of these teachings and practices in the West to American people, who have a different mental state, than where this Japanese master came from. But he said, but this is the only way I know that I can trust to produce a particular result, so that's why I keep doing it.
Is his master Japanese?
Yes. Yeah. So, and I was attracted to that Zen center for that very reason, because the guy running the place, the teacher, walked around in sloppy clothes, and the place was, not a total mess, but half a mess all the time, but it still functioned. It still functioned, and I feel very comfortable in that space and very comfortable with him, because there's nothing formal about him. There is nothing, he doesn't play any mind games. He has a real conversation. You can ask him anything about anything. Talks about his own personal experience. One of the things that has this process work, if you really want to have an accelerated process, is to allow your personality to have violence done to it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. That's what the 8 verses for training the mind is all about, Have I talked about the 8 verses? I've talked about the 8 verses of training. Yeah, the 8 verses of training the mind is one of the chants that they do. And if you read the 8 verses of training the mind, it will disturb you to read it. Because it's basically saying, no matter what happens, no matter what anybody does to you, no matter how reasonable it is for you to be angry, no matter how unreasonable it is for anybody to do what they did to you, consider them your teacher. Take the fault. Be the one that's wrong. Take the last place, no matter what the circumstances are. That's totally irrational, totally illogical, right? But if you understand that you're not your personality, what's the problem? If it bothers you, it's because you still are invested in that identity, that's all. The personality feels threatened when it's being opposed, because its constitution is to be in charge.
Even when you're observing it, it's still in charge.
Well, if you're observing it and you don't let it use your mouth and you don't express what that energy, right? Then you have succeeded to train your mind. That's why it's called 8 verses of training your mind. You're training your mind to stop identifying itself as a personality. And then later in the thing, you have to go back and, take it on as a personality. So I wanted to, because one of the things that I focus on when it comes to this community that you are a community. Is there a way, is there anything I can say that might unlock the combination that has your mind locked up in this identity with the body and the personality and the conditioning and everything? Is there anything that might allow that to, maybe even just open it for a minute so you could see, what this is all about? And I know one of your favorite topics is no free will.
Oh, yeah. I find that when we do, we haven't done it well, the Muji inquiry type things, that sometimes helps.
Yeah, the invitation.
Invitation.
Yeah, the invitation is if you really, really do the invitation, it's very probable that you'll get a flash of the truth, okay? But here's the thing about this predetermination or no free will. It is said, the Buddha said, actions happen, deeds are done, and there's no doer therein. Actions happen, deeds are done, and there's no doer therein. And what that's saying is you can't do anything. You've never done anything and you never will do anything. You can't do anything. So that puts you in a dilemma, doesn't it? Because on the one hand, you're being told practice. Practice, it's important to practice. Meditate, it's important to meditate. Study the teachings, it's important to deepen your understanding, right? And then in the next breath you're told, but you can't do anything. There's nothing you can do. You have no say-so about how this goes. So here's the deal, right? When they say the actions are taken and deeds are done, but there's no doer therein, and when it's said that you can't do anything, all that it's saying is it's not you that's doing what's happening. Consider this. All it's saying is it's not you that's doing what's happening. There's no doer therein. You're not the doer of the actions and the deeds, right? The doing the actions that's taking place is coming from thy will be done. It's coming through you, not from you. If you can just get that, that's what, so you see when it bothers you to hear that there's nothing you can do, right? When it bothers you, see if you can realize that you can let go of being bothered by that if you allow yourself to get that the actions and the deeds are happening as an expression of the nature of God, as a divine expression, as an expression of the total non-dual reality. It's an expression of the total non-dual reality. See, now this gets easily confusing because then you might say, so what determines whether my process goes forward or backward or stays the same, right? What determines that is your acceptance and your allowing this process to be as it is. You know, that your doubts are the doubts that God is having. Your questions are God's questions. Your resistance is God's resistance. Your identification with the personality is God's identification with the personality. If you can get what I'm trying to get across, if you can get this transmission, you can realize that resolves the whole thing. It resolves it in a beautiful way because you can let go, you can release the burden that you carry because it's not yours. You can release the problems that you're suffering from because they're not yours. You can stop being concerned about this process of becoming enlightened or waking up or self-realization because it's not your process. It isn't your process. And not only is it not your process, but if you let go of your identification with the process, right, and you allow yourself to accept everything as it is, as it's actually happening, right, the will of God, right, or you don't even have to talk about it in terms of God or the will of God, you know, that whatever the non-dual total reality is, right, that's what's happening, and it's expressing itself through you the way it's expressing itself through you. And while it's doing that, it's a dance. It's called Layla in the teaching. It's a dance, right? And in a dance, are you dancing the dance to get to the end? No. Neither is God trying to get anywhere. The dance is occurring for the sake of experiencing dancing. Your life is occurring for the sake of experiencing your life. It's not going anywhere. You know, did you ever stop and notice that you think your life is going somewhere? You know, everybody's headed for retirement, right? Everybody thinks their life is going to, where's it going? It's going to the end of the day, the end of the week, to the end of the year, the end of the decade, right? But time is an illusion. It's not going anywhere. Your life is not going anywhere. There's only one possibility, There's only one possibility, and that's if you develop your ability to pay attention, right? If you develop your ability to pay attention and you have an experience of who it is or what it is that's paying attention, what you're doing is you're watching what's happening. That's all that's possible. That's all that's possible, is you're just watching what's happening.
So if I skip a day of meditation, it's not me doing that. That's God's will.
That's right. That's
I
right.
had nothing to do with it.
That's right.
You can't do anything anyway. You can't do anything.
And it's not anything that's happening to you, it's just happening.
See, but the thing is this, if you skip a day of meditation, medication.
That's a good word.
If you skip a day of meditation, you could say it's God's will, but you're paying the bill. You will pay the consequences. Sometimes God wants to do it all at once. Sometimes God does it incrementally, or whatever. But the bottom line is it's all auspicious. It's all, look, the bottom line is this, the fact that you're sitting, because if what I'm saying is true, the fact that you're sitting here is not an accident. It's the will of God. It's the will of God. So you've been you're the chosen ones. You've been chosen to be in this process of waking up. Just like some leaves fall from the trees when the wind blows and other leaves don't. Same thing. Same thing. So the question is, are you appreciating, are you appreciating this opportunity?